Rebirth and continuity. These are not just mystical ideas from ancient scriptures. They are reflections of the life you're living right now. Have you ever felt like your story didn't begin at birth? Or that the pain you carry has roots deeper than memory? Sometimes we wonder why life feels heavy, or why certain moments seem strangely familiar, as if we've lived them before. In Buddhist wisdom, life is not a single chapter. It is a vast unfolding, a journey that flows from one lifetime to the next, shaped by every thought, every word, every action. This is not about superstition. It is about understanding the nature of who we are, and how every choice creates echoes that go far beyond what we see. If you've ever looked at your life and asked, "Why am I here? What does all this mean?" You're not alone. These questions are not signs of confusion. They are signs of awakening. In today's video, we'll explore what rebirth and continuity truly mean in Buddhism, and more importantly, how this understanding can help us live a more virtuous, peaceful, and meaningful life. We are not here to fear the future or dwell in the past. We are here to awaken to the present with clarity and compassion. And if you stay with me until the end, you may come to see your own life in a completely different light, not as a single thread, but as part of something sacred and continuous. If this message touches something in you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Now, take a deep breath. Let's begin the journey inward and discover how the understanding of rebirth can guide us to live this very life as if it's our best one yet. In the West, when people hear the word rebirth, they often imagine the soul of a person leaving one body and entering another, like changing clothes. But in Buddhism, the idea of rebirth is far more subtle and far more profound. Buddha never taught that there is a permanent, unchanging soul that passes from life to life. Instead, he taught that life is a flow, a continuous process of causes and conditions. There is no fixed self that remains the same from moment to moment, let alone from lifetime to lifetime. To understand rebirth in Buddhism, we must first understand impermanence. Everything changes. Nothing stays the same, not even your thoughts, your emotions, your body. The person you were 10 years ago is not the same person you are today. And yet, there is continuity, a stream, a thread, a process. This process is called samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, not just in the physical sense, but in the mental and karmic sense as well. Each moment gives birth to the next. Each action gives rise to a consequence. Each life plants seeds for the life that follows. Buddhism does not rely on belief. It asks us to observe directly. Think about how your thoughts from yesterday influence your actions today. Think about how a trauma from childhood still echoes in your adult relationships. These are not just memories. They are signs of continuity. Now, imagine that continuity extending beyond this one lifetime. When a flame lights another candle, the new flame is not exactly the same as the old one, but it came from it. It is influenced by it. It is connected to it. In the same way, your next life is not a carbon copy of this one, but it is shaped by it, deeply. The karma, the mental habits, intentions, actions, carry forward. So what is actually reborn? Not a soul, not a permanent self, but a stream of consciousness shaped by karma. It is like a river, always flowing, always changing, yet still called by the same name. And just as one moment flows into the next, one life flows into another. When the Buddha attained enlightenment, he saw countless past lives, not as stories, but as streams of cause and effect. He taught that clinging, craving, and ignorance bind us to this cycle. And the way out is not to run away from life, but to understand it so deeply that the illusions fall away. Understanding rebirth is not meant to scare us. It is not about punishment or reward. It is about taking responsibility for our minds, our actions, and the path we're walking. Every thought you have, every word you speak, every choice you make, they all leave imprints. Those imprints are not erased at death. They continue. They shape what comes next. But this continuity is not just about what happens after death. Rebirth is happening all the time. Every time you let go of anger and choose patience, you are being reborn. Every time you turn away from selfishness and choose compassion, you are beginning a new cycle. Every time you awaken from your past patterns and choose awareness, you are stepping out of the old and into the new. This understanding gives life a deeper meaning. You begin to see that this very moment is not isolated. It is part of a vast tapestry, woven with threads from the past and threads that will continue long after this body fades away. So rebirth in Buddhism is not a fantasy. It is a reminder, a mirror, a teaching. It tells us, be mindful, be kind, be aware, because nothing is ever truly lost. Everything continues in some form. And when you understand this, you begin to live not just for today, but for the countless tomorrows your actions will touch. If rebirth is the continuation of life beyond this body, then what fuels that continuation? What keeps the cycle of existence turning, lifetime after lifetime? The answer is karma, but karma is one of the most misunderstood concepts in Buddhism. To many people, karma sounds like cosmic punishment or divine justice. Do something bad, and something bad will happen to you. Do something good, and you'll be rewarded. But that's not what the Buddha taught. Karma simply means action. More precisely, it means intentional action. Actions of the body, speech, and mind that are driven by intention, awareness, or desire. Every thought you think, every word you speak, every choice you make, especially those rooted in intention, plants a seed. That seed doesn't disappear. It stays in the mind stream. And one day, in this life or the next, it bears fruit. Imagine throwing a pebble into a still lake. The ripples spread outward in all directions, touching shores you cannot see. That's karma. Each intentional act creates ripples across time, reaching beyond what we can measure. Now, if we go deeper, we see that karma isn't about fate. It's about habit. It's about the patterns we create through repetition. If you respond to stress with anger again and again, over time, that reaction becomes automatic. You're not cursed. You've just trained your mind that way. And if that habit becomes deeply rooted, it doesn't just shape this life. It continues, shaping future lives as well. This is how karma drives rebirth. It's not a judge or a system that tracks your behavior. It's much more intimate than that. You carry the consequences of your actions within your own mind. Your next experience is born from the quality of your present intention. So when we talk about rebirth, we're not talking about random reincarnation. We're talking about continuity based on karma, the energy of your thoughts and deeds continuing, gathering momentum, taking shape in new forms. Buddhism offers a very empowering perspective here. It teaches that you are not a prisoner of your past karma. You are not doomed to repeat old mistakes forever. Yes, past actions have consequences, but new karma is being created every moment. And that means you can change. You can shift the direction of your life. You can plant different seeds. Every act of compassion plants the seeds of peace. Every moment of patience breaks the cycle of aggression. Every act of forgiveness weakens the chain of suffering. And here is something even more powerful. Karma doesn't just affect the future. It affects the present. When you act with love, even in this very moment, you start to experience its result immediately. In your breath, your nervous system, your sense of peace. You don't have to wait until another lifetime to feel the fruits of good karma. They begin here, right now. This is why the Buddha said, "We are the heirs of our own actions. We inherit what we create. No one else gives it to us. No one else takes it away." But that's not a burden. It's a gift. Because it means your liberation is in your own hands. If you understand karma deeply, you begin to walk through life more mindfully. You become more careful with your words, more compassionate in your responses, not out of fear, but out of love. Not because you're afraid of punishment, but because you understand the deep power of every choice. So karma is not a law to obey. It's a mirror, showing you where your actions lead. And when you see clearly, you begin to choose more wisely. Karma is the engine of rebirth. It is also the tool of transformation. It binds us when we act blindly, but it frees us when we act with wisdom. You are creating your future right now, one thought at a time. And the future doesn't start after this life ends. It starts with your very next breath. When we hear about rebirth, it might sound like a teaching that only matters after death. Something distant, something mysterious. But in truth, understanding rebirth is not about what happens after this life. It's about how you live this life. Right now, when you truly understand that your actions don't just vanish, that they leave an imprint, that they shape your future in this life and beyond, something shifts inside you. You begin to live with greater care, greater clarity, greater compassion. Because if life is a stream and rebirth is continuity, then every choice you make today shapes the direction of that stream. It means your future isn't written in stone. It's being written in this very moment. With every word you speak, every thought you allow, every intention you carry, you realize that what you do now matters more than you ever thought. Not because someone is watching, not because you want to be rewarded, but because you are responsible for your own future and for the echoes your life will leave behind. This is where the teaching becomes transformative. You begin to pause before you speak, knowing that your words are seeds. You become gentle with others, recognizing that anger only continues cycles of suffering, for them and for you. You forgive more easily, because you understand that holding on to pain is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to suffer. Understanding rebirth also brings peace when facing hardship, because instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" with bitterness, you begin to ask, "What is this moment teaching me?" You see challenges not as punishment, but as part of a longer unfolding, an opportunity to break an old cycle, to choose differently, to awaken. When you look at life through the lens of rebirth, the small things begin to matter less, and the deeper things matter more. You stop chasing temporary pleasure. You stop needing to win every argument, and instead, you start asking, what kind of person am I becoming through this? Am I building peace or perpetuating pain? You see, understanding rebirth invites you to shift from short-term thinking to long-term wisdom, from reacting to reflecting, from consuming to creating, from surviving to living meaningfully. And most of all, it invites you to live with a deeper sense of purpose. When you know that life is not just one chapter, you begin to live as if every page matters. You stop wasting time. You start choosing with intention. You begin to write a story, not just for yourself, but for the life that comes after, whether in this world or another. This awareness also helps you face death without fear, because you realize death is not the end. It's a doorway, a transition, a continuation, like the sun setting in one place only to rise in another. So you begin to prepare for death, not by fearing it, but by living well now, living with kindness, living with courage, living with integrity, because how you die depends on how you live. And when your final breath comes, whether tomorrow or years from now, you will know that you've lived in a way that brings peace to whatever comes next. That is the power of understanding rebirth. It doesn't take you out of the world. It brings you more fully into it, more awake, more responsible, more free. Because in the end, rebirth is not just about where you're going. It's about how you're becoming. If rebirth is real, and if karma shapes our future, then the natural question becomes, how should I live? The Buddha didn't leave us guessing. He gave us a clear path, not based on belief or ritual, but on virtue. Not virtue as judgment, not virtue as perfection, but virtue as freedom. In Buddhism, living virtuously means living in a way that brings peace to yourself and to others. It means training the mind to do no harm, to act with compassion, and to live in harmony with the truth. Virtue is not about being morally superior. It's about living in a way that doesn't create more suffering. It's about breaking the cycles of pain that have followed us for lifetimes and planting the seeds of peace for the lifetimes to come. So what does this look like in practice? The Buddha offered us guidelines, not commandments. Among the most foundational are the 5 precepts: Simple principles to help us live with awareness and integrity. The first is to refrain from killing, not just people, but any living being. When we choose to protect life rather than destroy it, we begin to see all beings as part of the same sacred web of existence. The second is to refrain from stealing. This is about more than taking what isn't given. It's about respecting boundaries, respecting trust, choosing honesty, even when no one is looking. The third is to refrain from sexual misconduct. It means honoring relationships, avoiding harm, recognizing that love must be rooted in respect and responsibility, not desire and control. The fourth is to refrain from false speech. This is one of the most powerful. Words can heal or hurt. They can bring truth or confusion. And every time we choose honesty over manipulation, silence over gossip, kindness over cruelty, we cleanse our karma and uplift the world around us. The fifth is to refrain from intoxicants that cloud the mind, not because drinking is evil, but because clarity is sacred. When the mind is clouded, we lose our center. We act out of impulse. Virtue begins with awareness, and awareness requires a clear mind. These 5 precepts are not rules to obey out of fear. They are gifts. They are a form of love for yourself and for all life. When you live this way, something inside you softens. You begin to feel lighter, cleaner, stronger, not because you're perfect, but because you're aligned. Your thoughts, your words, your actions, they begin to point in the same direction. And when they do, your life becomes a path. A path not just of morality, but of meaning. Because here's the truth. Virtue is not a burden. Virtue is freedom. When you stop harming, you stop carrying guilt. When you stop lying, you stop fearing exposure. When you act with kindness, you stop creating enemies. And when your life is guided by wisdom and compassion, you begin to sleep peacefully. You begin to walk lightly. You begin to live fully. In this way, virtue becomes the foundation of liberation. It's not the end of the path, but it is the ground beneath every step. Without it, meditation becomes escape. With it, meditation becomes transformation. The Buddha often said that a virtuous life is a beautiful life, not because it's easy, but because it brings peace. Peace in your heart, peace in your relationships, and peace that continues far beyond this lifetime. So ask yourself, not am I a good person, but instead, am I creating peace through my actions? Am I living in a way that leaves fewer regrets and more love? That is what it means to live a virtuous life. Not to be perfect, but to be present, awake, and kind. Because in the end, the most powerful karma is not what you believe, but how you live. And a single act of compassion can undo lifetimes of suffering. When people hear the word rebirth, they often think of the moment after death, the mysterious in-between, the transition from one life to the next. But the Buddha offered a far more immediate, more intimate understanding. Rebirth is not only something that happens at the end of this life. Rebirth is happening right now. In every moment, you are changing. In every breath, something in you dies, and something new begins. The person you were a second ago is already gone. The emotions you felt this morning have already faded. The beliefs you held last year may no longer be true for you today. You are not one self, frozen in time. You are a stream of becoming, fluid, shifting, transforming. And in this way, rebirth is not something to wait for. It is something to recognize. It is something to live. Every time you let go of a harmful habit and choose a wiser response, you are being reborn. Every time you forgive instead of resent, breathe instead of react, open instead of close, you are stepping into a new version of yourself. Think about it. There were moments in your life when everything changed, not because your body moved to a new place, but because your heart did. Moments when you chose love instead of fear. Moments when you walked away from anger and into peace. Moments when you said, I don't have to be who I was yesterday. Those were moments of rebirth. Rebirth is not just about lifetimes. It's about letting the past die so that compassion can live. It's about seeing that every day, every moment is a chance to begin again. You don't need to wait for a second life to start over. You can begin again, right here, in this breath, in this thought, In this choice, this is one of the most liberating teachings of the Buddha, because it means your story is not fixed, your identity is not fixed, your pain is not permanent. Even your karma can be transformed, not by denying the past, but by changing your relationship with it now. You are not bound by who you were. You are only shaped by who you choose to be in this moment. And that's the secret to freedom. Because if you can be reborn now, you don't have to be a victim of yesterday. You can take responsibility, not with guilt, but with power. Even your suffering can be the ground for awakening. Even your mistakes can become the fuel for compassion. Even your scars can become the doorway to light. In the Buddhist path, this is called moment-to-moment rebirth. It's not abstract philosophy. It's practical. It means that the way you speak today matters. The way you treat your body, your loved ones, your mind. It all matters, because it creates the next version of you. And here's the beauty. Every time you choose mindfulness, you step out of the cycle of unconscious karma. Every time you choose love, you stop the wheel of suffering. Every time you choose truth, you end a pattern of fear. This is not just rebirth. This is liberation in motion. You don't have to wait until the end of your life to be reborn. You don't need a new body to find a new beginning. You simply need presence. You need intention. You need to remember that now is the only place where real change can happen. So take a breath. Let go of what no longer serves you, and allow yourself to be born again. Not somewhere else. Not someday later, but here. Now, exactly as you are. What would life look like if you truly understood that nothing ends, that nothing you do is ever lost, that every thought, every action, every word you speak ripples on, shaping your future and the world around you? This is the peace that comes from understanding rebirth and continuity. You begin to see that you're not here by accident. You're not floating through a meaningless universe. You're part of a living stream of consciousness, of action, of cause and effect that never truly dies. And when you know this, your life becomes sacred. Every moment becomes an opportunity to plant seeds, seeds of kindness, seeds of wisdom, seeds of awakening. The choices you make today, how you love, how you forgive, how you respond to pain, they don't disappear. They continue. They shape the you of tomorrow. They shape the world your children inherit. They shape the collective human story. And that means you matter. You always have. Your suffering matters. Not to shame you, but to awaken you. Your healing matters. Not only for you, but for everyone you touch. Your presence matters, because every small act of compassion adds to a greater light in the world. This is not a philosophy of fear. This is a philosophy of freedom. Because if everything continues, then you always have a chance to begin again. If there is continuity, there is hope. If there is rebirth, there is renewal. No darkness is final. No mistake is the end of the story. As the Buddha taught, just as the great ocean has but one taste, the taste of salt, so too does the Dharma have but one taste, the taste of freedom. Freedom begins when you recognize your power to shape this life, this moment, this breath, not by clinging to the past, not by fearing the future, but by stepping fully into now, with mindfulness, with compassion, with courage. And when your heart truly accepts the continuity of life, you stop wasting time, you stop chasing illusions, you stop living for approval or praise or ego. You start living with meaning. You start acting from love. You start letting go of what doesn't matter and holding on to what does. So may this teaching not just live in your mind. May it live in your choices, in how you wake up tomorrow, in how you speak to the people you love, in how you treat your own heart. Rebirth is not just an idea. It is a call to awaken, to transform, and to continue the journey toward peace, one step at a time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for walking this path. And remember, no matter where you are in life, no matter what you've been through, you can begin again. Right now.